No! Stop! He had her by the hair and he was slamming her face down into the cement and both nostrils were bleeding. I couldn't stop it. She ended up with black eyes.
All these children are suffering from what the experts call attention deficit disorder. Symptoms include hyperactivity, but there's a lot more to it than that.
Late, that will do.
So he was totally out of control.
Out of control. Banging his head against the wall and stamping up and down and screaming and, yeah.
Nothing's making me happy, nothing.
We'd take it in shifts. I'd work 10 hours a day, come home, and we'd get 2 hours sleep and get up for 2 hours, and that went on night after night.
Laith's parents, Diane and Paul, wake up to scenes like this every day. He won't listen, won't sit still, is always in trouble and always wanting things his own way. Sound like a child you know? Because about 5% of school-age children suffer the symptoms of what we once called hyperactivity, now known as attention deficit disorder, ADD. Most are boys, most are bright, and most flounder in the classroom. And all the time, their parents are going quietly nutty, trying to control them and trying to convince doctors and educators that they're more than just little devils.
Come on. Stop. Will you stop?
The parents of these particular children describe their offspring as disaster zones on legs. Just listen to them.
He had her by the hair and he was slamming her face down into the cement and both nostrils were bleeding. I couldn't stop it. She ended up with black eyes. I had to go to school and explain to her teacher that her 3-year-old brother had blackened her eyes.
No? You gonna behave? I mean, in the last 12 months, we've had a broken ankle, our neck in a brace. She fractured the elbow 7 weeks ago. The wrist strapped up. She's had a suspected broken wrist. Now she's got a black eye. You know, she's just accident prone. You can't let her out your sight, you know?
All these children are suffering from what the experts call attention deficit disorder. Symptoms include hyperactivity, but there's a lot more to it than that.
Kids with ADD are a bit like Ferrari engines with poor brakes and no steering.
Shit, where are they? He doesn't understand what he's doing most of the time when he is out of control.
Laith Day is 9 and a classic case of ADD. You only have to watch the family's home videos to see that.
Has no fear whatsoever. Likes playing on the roof of the house.
He came up with a snake recently too, didn't
he? Yes, he bought me a brown copperhead, a king brown copperhead. That was my present.
Which are deadly.
Well, yes. And it wasn't dead when he caught it.
Fortunately, it was only small. But he managed to get it in a jar.
Laith's parents, Diane and Paul, wake up to scenes like this every day. Impulsive, fidgety, overactive. Laith just can't help himself. And he's not faking it for the camera either. Put simply, it's just much easier for him to act this way than to sit still. You know what they say about you? You know what they call you?
No.
Impulsive. Have you heard that word before?
No.
Haven't you?
No.
They say that you're impulsive, which means that you do things often without thinking.
Yep, very often.
Very often, do you? I heard you brought home your mum a snake.
Yeah.
Did you?
Yeah.
As a present?
Yeah.
How did you get the snake in the jar?
Shoved it in.
With your hand?
No, with the lid.
With the lid? But that was a poisonous snake.
I didn't know that.
Didn't you? And you weren't scared at all of it?
No, I thought it was a legless lizard. First I tried to suffocate it, then I tried to drown it.
Oh, really? And if you think Laith's bad at home, just try taking him out to dinner.
That will do, Leith.
We just don't take him out. He just demolishes the place and he runs riot, and you spend the whole night trying to contain him, trying to keep him still. So you just give up. You don't go out, and that's it.
Essentially, it's a physical problem. There are two theories to account for this. One is that it represents some sort of chemical imbalance in the brain. The chemical in question is dopamine.
Secondly?
The second theory is that it represents a sort of maturational delay. In other words, areas of your brain that govern functions like attention, concentration, short-term memory are just slow in developing. See you, sweetie. Bye.
Clinical psychologist Jeffrey Bollard sees 10 different ADD children every week
How are you feeling?
at his Adelaide practice.
You getting better?
Doctor, do you have a ballpark figure on just how many children in Australia who suffer from attention deficit disorder?
There's about 250,000 of school-aged children.
Come on, no! Let go of me, please. Don't let Hayley touch. Luke! Let go of your sister. But you'll let Hayley touch.
7-year-old Luke Roberts has attention deficit disorder. With him, the problem is not hyperactivity, but extreme mood swings.
No! Luke!
I recently had my hair cut and that just freaked him. He couldn't handle it because Mum looked a bit different. Or we didn't have any Vegemite one day. So he just carried on and that went on for about 4 hours.
So he was totally out of control.
Out of control. Banging his head against the wall and stamping up and down and screaming and, yeah.
Colours, smells, noises, anything abnormal can push Luke over the edge. Perfectly happy 1 minute, in the depths of despair the next.
Sometimes it would take days for him to calm down again.
After a 5-minute tantrum?
After a 5-minute
Because
tantrum.
it would just build and build and build.
Like so many parents with ADD children, Tracy and Mark Roberts knew something was terribly wrong with Luke the day he was born.
From the word go, he didn't sleep probably 22 out of 24 hours a day, and in that time would be at 20-minute intervals.
For how long?
That went on for 10 months.
We'd take it in shifts. I'd work 10 hours a day, come home, and we'd get 2 hours sleep and get up for 2 hours, and that went on night after night. It's not as if he just didn't sleep. He'd be screaming, in pain. Obviously, things were wrong.
Nothing's making me happy, nothing.
But what was obvious to them certainly wasn't to the many doctors who examined Luke.
Nothing's making me happy.
They blamed diets, lack of set routines, and the parents.
The doctor sat and listened to me, and he told me that, listen, I think that he doesn't have too many problems. And he said, I think, lady, that you are slightly neurotic and go home and sort out your problems. And that was about the 3rd time I've been told that.
Yes, what way this is going?
Luke now takes the controversial stimulant, Ritalin, almost every day. It can't cure him, but it does calm him so he can concentrate on one thing at a time.
That's good. Okay.
Ritalin is certainly one of the most effective forms of therapy for true ADD.
But no one knows for sure about the long-term effects of Ritalin, do they?
I think there's a general feeling among the population that any medication for children who aren't physically ill, one needs to be cautious about, and I think that's a very healthy attitude to have. There is a risk of side effects, but if it's carefully administered and monitored, they're minimal.
But there'll be nothing to be over. I'm not working.
Yes, you are.
This is Luke off Ritalin.
Draw me, Pachycephalosaurus.
I can't draw him. I'm not very good at him.
Well, spell it for me.
Later, when he's on Ritalin, it's a very different story. Your mum asked you to spell some difficult words before, didn't she? Remember we asked that?
Do you think you could spell Pachycephalosaurus?
No, micropachycephalosaurus.
Oh. As you can see, the change is remarkable. Tracy, you actually have some drawings and writing comparing Luke's progress on and off Ritalin, haven't you? Yeah. Can we just have a look?
That's before, the day before.
One day before taking
One
Ritalin.
day before taking the tablet.
He's all over the place, isn't he? And this one?
And this one's after.
That's one day after Ritalin.
One day after, yeah.
When he's on his medication, he's positively charming and well beyond his 7 years.
Why don't you, for Mike, speak to him in Japanese, say something in Japanese.
Oh, he can't speak in Japanese.
I'm learning it.
Oh, I don't believe it.
Okay, then look.
I don't believe you. Oh, that is Japanese. Can you speak that?
Some.
Okay, go on, speak some
I'll
Japanese.
say a funny one.
Okay.
Furangupan o tabemasu ka?
What's that mean?
Do you eat frying pan?
No, I do not eat frying pan.
I was a little bit too late. Like, if I was found out when I was about 6 years old, I would have been real better off now.
Matthew Wood has just started high school.
About the order in which things happen, and then using those points...
Matthew represents one of the tragedies of ADD, where he was very late in being diagnosed. He's a strapping, healthy 13-year-old with a good, healthy IQ, but is years behind in basic academic attainment.
Who'd like to read now? Matthew?
Yeah. We go under the right side of the house. Justin said quietly, "Follow me."
4 years behind in reading, 5 years behind in spelling. The main lesson Matthew gets in the classroom is in humiliation.
He lies when he's got a lot of written homework and says, "I've done it," or "don't have any." That's the way he's learnt to cope with it, and I mean, I can't constantly call him a liar.
It begins to impair academic performance. It begins to impair their ability to relate to peers. They tend to get offside with people very easily. And as a result of all of those things, their self-esteem suffers.
B-E-U-T-I.
For Laith, just sitting down long enough to absorb anything in class is a mammoth effort.
Anybody else have another way of spelling beautiful?
He couldn't cope with the structure of the school. He didn't understand that he actually had to sit down. It didn't matter how often they sat him, he'd get up and walk around.
Yes.
Laith is 9, and already his schoolwork is 3 years behind his classmates.
When he was at kindy, he could write his name. He could recite things to me. When he went to school, 12 months into school, and he'd regressed. He couldn't do a thing. He couldn't even write. By year 3, he wouldn't put pen to paper to even attempt to write his name.
Because he'd lost all confidence.
Yeah, and I don't know how often I went to the school and said to them, you know, we really have got a problem here. Do you think we could look at it and see what we can do for Laith and see how far we can get with... Oh, look, it's just a matter of maturity, they'd say to me. Let's just wait a little bit longer. So while the education profession were telling me that and the medical profession saying let's wait a bit longer, we've waited a long time.
For Diane and these other long-suffering parents, today is a rare chance to socialise with other families. There's no embarrassment because every child is the same.
I've had to give him a dose of a sedative just to get him to the car. And I mean, he's doped out at the moment, just so I can get out here today, otherwise I wouldn't have come.
How do you tell the difference between an active, mischievous 4 or 5-year-old and one with attention deficit disorder?
Well, the child with attention deficit disorder exhibits these features persistently. There's not much break for parents. While a mischievous child might throw a temper tantrum, a child with ADD...
Mailbag this week.